Hey everyone, and welcome back to Autoimmune Adventures. If you are a woman over 40 navigating fatigue, brain fog, mood swings, hot flashes, stubborn weight gain, gut issues, autoimmune issues, or honestly all of the above, this is the episode for you. Because here's the truth. When perimenopause and autoimmunity collide, it can feel like your body has completely turned against you. Symptoms stack, doctors shrug, you start questioning everything, your food, your sleep, your stress, your sanity. And that's exactly why today's conversation is so important. We are joined by Simla Somturk, MBA, certified nutrition consultant, and certified holistic health coach. Simla reversed multiple autoimmune conditions, including fibromyalgia, lupus, and undifferentiated connective tissue disorder, along with chronic fatigue, IBS, and SIBO. More recently, she navigated her own perimenopausal transition, which has deepened her work helping people, especially women, obviously, calm inflammation and reclaim their power using food, lifestyle, and mindset as medicine. What I love about Simla's approach is that it's both science-based and soulful. She's seen the wellness industry from the inside, including C-level roles in supplement companies, and she's passionate about helping women overcome and cut through the noise. Simla, we are so excited to have you here with us today.
And I am so thrilled to be here today. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with your story. You've walked through multiple diagnoses and now perimenopause as well. Mm-hmm. Can you share what the journey looked like for you and how it shaped the work you do today?
I absolutely can. With the benefit of hindsight, I can actually trace my arc of autoimmune back to my earliest memories of when I was 3 years old. So I'll give a very brief overview of the greater journey. I'm happy to dive into any bit of it, and I'll follow your lead on that. But I find that it's these little clues that can really help people say, oh, I've never connected those dots before for myself. And so that's my intention in sharing the larger arc rather than just starting when my autoimmune actually set in, because that was by no means the actual beginning of when things became more felt and visible. Invisibly visible, if you know what I mean. I know you do. So 3 years old, I would have chronic ear infections and I had ear tubes put in. Here we are 43 years later. I know that, no, more than that, I'm sorry, bad math, but here we are many decades later. And I know that a dairy allergy was instigating those ear infections, which later in life would worsen my immune system even more and show itself as very severe asthma. And a lot of antibiotic treatment back then. As we know, antibiotics can truly be life-saving, and they can also decimate our gut and the integrity of our gut lining and our immune system in turn. So, talk about layering throughout a lifetime of dealing with chronic infections like that. I'm fast forwarding to when I was in my early teens is when the first signs of IBS showed up. With severe gastroenteritis, stress-induced, and those remained a mystery. I was told by doctors, you're too young to have this. What's going on? And into my 20s, now we're looking at play hard, work hard. My first phase of my career, I was in management consulting coming out of undergrad and for about 10 years. And really long work hours, but also having a ton of fun traveling the country, but also chronic bronchitis and more IBS, constant issues with constipation when traveling, and feeling really off, having mystery illnesses, having mystery infections, and again, worsening asthma. That's when that really began to show up. I was on 2 inhalers, one long-term, one acute. Never really connected the dots again. And then fast forward again, I'm in my MBA program. Right in the middle of it, I started becoming highly allergic to eggs, hives, and grass. So I would touch grass and my hands would blow up and turn bright red, and all felt super random. In that time, I also contracted a really rare disease. That there was an epidemic in Philadelphia where I was actually living, and I contracted Legionnaire's disease. That is how I would pick up the smallest thing. Like the CDC called me and they were like, hold on, what, where? I contracted it at the same hotel where the epidemic happened, the decades ago. There's like write-ups about this. So, but no one else did. So that's how raw my immune system was in terms of being susceptible to those kinds of things. Along the way, I also, this is again all connecting the dots, I had a very minor Achilles injury when I was in my early 20s, which was treated with cortisone shots. Again, the benefit of hindsight, I now know that they were overdosed at very, very high levels, and it caused a massive infection, where my entire area, my foot, my tendon, my heel deteriorated, turned black. And so that festered for a decade, and I didn't even know that until all this other stuff came to be. There's a lot of talk about how autoimmune is connected to viral infections and a variety of sorts. And, in this case, it was just a perfect storm of so many different things. So I'm done with my MBA and I go back into management consulting for a couple of years. And where it all came to a head for me is I got on a plane one day. I was living in San Francisco and I was flying to my client on the East Coast to run some workshops. That was on a Monday, and by that Friday, I flew home and I couldn't walk. And within a course of a week, I went from what was my normal to I had to get a wheelchair at the airport because I couldn't walk the distance to go get home in a car. So I was still in denial. I thought this is just an injury. I wore heels for the workshops. By like late that week, I was in sneakers, and my boss actually pulled me aside and was like, what the heck are you doing? This isn't professional. I was like, well, my foot hurts. I think I have an injury. So I went home, kept working from home, like 60-hour weeks, and going to a podiatrist to look for the injury, x-rays, scans, all that stuff. I thought it was my bad ankle. Like I thought that had something to do with it, but it wasn't. For which, by the way, I had been on about a year's worth of antibiotics a couple of years prior to that. So again, all totally snowballing into this moment. And so from there, my symptoms related to what I now know to be my autoimmune set in rapid succession. And after like 2-3 months of trying to navigate this, keep working in denial, I just couldn't anymore. I ended up needing to go on short-term disability. And I had 7 pages of symptoms I was tracking because, my analytical side kicked in. I was like, what the heck? And I was seeing all these specialists and everybody was saying, nope, nothing's wrong with you. Your scans look fine. I even went to one of the top neuropathy, the head of the division at one of the top universities, hospitals in San Francisco. And he pricked my leg and my feet with his test. That took about 2 minutes, for which I probably paid about $800 some dollars, I remember, for 15 minutes of his time. And I was told, you don't have neuropathy. Meanwhile, I literally couldn't walk more than 50 or stand more than 15 minutes a day. Not to mention brain fog, extreme fatigue started setting in. I was bumping into walls. I was becoming extrasensory, sensitive to anything from sound to light. And I had to reread things multiple times to recall anything. So disability it was. And so that brought me up to that point. I still had no answers. I was next misdiagnosed with my early set of diagnoses, which ended up being Lyme disease with some of its comorbidities. I hate that word, but that's what they call them. But it was so much of a tug of war in a couple of doctors disagreeing whether it was Lyme or wasn't Lyme. I actually ended up going to 3, 4, or 5 specialists, finally connected with a rheumatologist who obviously knew the world of autoimmune, but also knew and was the first person in the state of California to have diagnosed Lyme when it first arrived there. So I found someone who was able to look at the fuller picture. And she's the one who diagnosed me with lupus. And she's the one who also said, and undifferentiated connective tissue disorder, like they're a part of a spectrum. I ended up going to a university study in New York, one of the top hospitals there that had a center that actually studied Lyme disease. And I was there for 3 days with a lot of blood tests and memory tests and psychiatric tests. And their conclusion was so inconclusive that they said the likelihood is that you do not have Lyme. So it was also a method of elimination. And so that I parked away. I said, okay, that's enough for me at this point. I'm fairly confident I don't have Lyme disease. Then what else do I have? And as I found my people, my village, my amazing, incredible health-giving providers that heard me, saw me, and treated me as a whole person, the resulting diagnoses at the end of the day ended up being fibromyalgia, lupus, undifferentiated connective tissue disorder, as well as multiple chemical sensitivity, chronic fatigue syndrome, on top of the IBS, the chronic asthma, chronic bronchitis, and all these other things that had come along with me. Of course, they don't just go away. Mm-hmm. So I'll pause there. That was kind of the journey into when everything came to a head.
That is quite the journey, girl. That is quite the journey. And the more people we talk to, the more we realize that everybody has a real journey behind just the years it takes to get to a diagnosis, the number of specialists and doctors and appointments and tests and labs and all of these things. You really have to keep advocating for yourself to get to those answers. And it really comes down to finding somebody who will listen. Like you said, you've had to, who knows how long it takes people to find a provider that will hear you, that will take into account the whole picture. So important. So you've really learned a lot along the way. And I love that you're here to share your knowledge with us. Switching gears just a little bit, you have worked inside the natural products and supplement industry at a high level. And I think that's a really unique perspective. So what did you see from the inside that most women don't realize, like especially when it comes to supplements and health hacks?
Oh gosh. It's been an interesting exploration for me what it means to be in corporate. So that's a whole part of the story in itself. But for the supplement industry and the health hacks and all this stuff, the good side of things is that 20 years ago, when I was going through my exploration and journey and healing attempt, this was all very niche. And so supplements were kind of there, kind of not. And fast forward to today, also, again, you know, there's such a proliferation of supplement companies, and every, you know, conversation around supplements, you know, is inadvertently, you know, tied to this hacking mechanism, you know, and fads and trends. And there's also a lot of mass information now, and a lot of it can be misinterpreted. A lot of it is sensationalized. A lot of it is clickbait, and a lot of it is completely taken out of context. And there are a lot of incredibly cheap, low quality, just people trying to make a buck type of supplement companies that really scares me, because best case scenario, you're wasting money and time taking them, but worst case scenario, they could really either hurt you, or you might really not be getting what your body truly needs when you think you're doing the right thing. So it's really disturbing to me, and part of the reason why I'm back doing the work I'm doing.
You are doing work that is very needed, very much needed. It is confusing. And when you are on your own journey and you're looking at all the things, I mean, we always say between the three of us sisters, we've tried it all. We've tried all the things, you know, and it's scary to think that there are people out there selling products that are actually going to cause you more problems than you already have. It's hard to know. It's a really tricky thing. It's a hard to know thing.
It's really hard. Let me give you just one example. Turmeric was in the news for a while. It's been hot for a while, right? It's anti-inflammatory. It's been used for millennia in traditional wisdom and you know, and more indigenous practices longer than we know. And it's a very, very powerful, beautiful plant compound that has many benefits. Typical to our culture sometimes, you know, a lot of people think more is better. And so now we have instances of toxicity. And if the supplement is a low quality supplement that truly is too much of a good thing and not formulated appropriately or correctly, you can be in a lot of danger, and people have really suffered from that. But if it's done well, with the best of quality and appropriate formulation, and or first and foremost in your diet as a whole food prepared correctly, then you get all the benefits, and it becomes a part of your beautiful body and does what it is intended to do. So there's just that one example about a supplement that can go really wrong or really right, depending.
Yeah.
I really love that you bring that up, because I love turmeric, but I learned a long time ago that the best way to get it was through my food, to like add it in and use it in my food, because I went on one supplement very much like you're talking about, and I had really bad effect. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm allergic to turmeric. And what I didn't realize was that I was just ODing on it. So you do make a very valid point, and I can speak to that very, very clearly. Yeah, sadly, I can speak clearly to that. All right. One of the big reasons why we wanted to chat with you is because of your focus on perimenopause. So I'm going to ask a question that I think will be something our listeners will be refreshed to hear, that there are people who actually care about this particular aspect of being a woman. So many of our listeners are obviously dealing with autoimmune flares, and that, of course, intensifies when you add perimenopause to the mix. So could you explain to us maybe what's actually happening in our bodies during that time and why it feels like everything is suddenly louder?
Absolutely. So by virtue of having lived through this incredible transition myself, and I still am. I am not menopausal yet. I haven't reached my, as currently defined, 12 months from my last menses. I'm definitely in the throes of it. Here are some common things women can expect and will likely experience through this transition. Actually, number one, it's different for every single individual. Every woman's perimenopause journey will be her own. And we're still figuring out which symptoms qualify for perimenopause and what to pay attention to without, now that it is getting a lot of great and much needed and overdue attention, we also need to be careful not to overshoot and then, tie everything back to, oh, it must be perimenopause, and then overlook something else that may seriously be, needing separate attention. Not that anything in our bodies is separate, but you know what I mean. So perimenopause is when we enter the transition as women. Every single woman will go through this, is when our hormones shift and adapt to this life stage. Primarily defined by declining estrogen levels, declining progesterone levels, and declining testosterone levels. Those are our main sex hormones. For women, primarily estrogen and progesterone. Now, hormones control pretty much everything in our body. They are the command mechanisms for do this, don't do that. And they are integrated with our immune system, with our gut, with our nervous system, our brain functions of the whole bit, mood to sleep to appetite, cardiovascular health, our musculoskeletal health. It's all connected. Now, focusing on the immune connection, those hormonal shifts, I am finding, and I'm digging into the research about, what is out there now, and I don't yet have figures or numbers, but my active hypothesis is that perimenopause can more readily trigger autoimmune, whether you don't have it yet or whether you have one or more autoimmune, but you may be triggered to have additional ones. And or it can make it worse. And so there's just such a perfect storm going on, and everything being so interconnected, we have to recognize that there are combined symptoms, and then there are overlapping symptoms that can compound on one another and really end up creating an incredibly chaotic environment in our bodies and of course spill out into our entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just described like exactly my experience within my body and brain in the last year. That's why I was so excited to interview you, is because this has been a very, very real experience for me for the last year. And it has made me question my sanity. It's made me question my marriage. It's made me question so many things. And I do think that the vast majority of the stuff I'm dealing with is tied back to perimenopause. But when you do have that autoimmunity factor added, it gets a little trickier. So this is where it's really important for women to be taking very good care of themselves, which we're not good at anyway. Like, we're not taught to do that at a young age, to take good care of our bodies and our minds. And I will say the benefit of perimenopause and decreasing estrogen is I have no more shits to give.
Exactly.
And it's actually very freeing. to be able to just say, oh, I don't do that anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. That's not serving me. That's not helping me. And being able to let go of patterns of behavior or whatever it may be that have been adding to the struggle. So, yeah, all of that. And I'm sure people listening are like, yep, all of those things. So one thing we talk a lot about on this podcast is that feeling of depletion. When you're living with chronic illness, we're exhausted. We're exhausted to our bones. And so could you tell us what are the biggest drivers of fatigue in perimenopause, especially with women that have autoimmune conditions? Where should they start with addressing that fatigue?
Oh, goodness. It's such a circular situation. It's like everything being so interconnected, but you've got to start somewhere, right? And you've got to start with your real life within context of what's going on for you right now. So speaking generally, as I must right now, there are 3 things that I would encourage every woman to pause and give a little space for, to see, is this something I can optimize more right now, if at all, especially if I've never really thought about it before. Number 1, blood sugar control. Now, here's a situation where, like you said, Alicia, it feels chaotic. You can feel like you're losing your mind. You can feel like you're losing your whole self. You are questioning your sanity. You barely have enough to get through the day, busy doing everything, right? We're typically at the peak of our careers. We may still be raising younger children, and we're once a parent, always a parent. And also we're likely caring for aging parents, hence the sandwich generation at the moment. And, we have our relationship that can be taking a toll. So when everything feels like it's falling apart, one of the best things I feel we can each do is start with what you can directly control. The feeling of control, as much of an illusion that can be in reality sometimes, there are things you can take back and control. Your blood sugar levels are one of them. What you put in your body, quality, the timing, the amount, is something directly in your control. As hard as that might feel, because you're so stretched for time and so stretched potentially budget-wise as well. There are a lot of potential constraints, but there are immediate things you can do, literally starting with your next choice going into the kitchen and when to start getting that under control, because blood sugar levels will impact your energy. They will impact your ability to have better sleep. They will impact your brain to be able to function better and put itself into balance or homeostasis better, to better focus. So when I have clients with ADHD, for example, which I know personally has been a big piece of my changing brain, like holy moly, blood sugar balance ties into all of that, plus inflammation. So there's a lot of myths around fasting, intermittent fasting, and variations of that, like, taking us back to earlier in the conversation around hacks and trends and all this stuff, that has been a big disservice to women, because all of that doesn't always work for every woman in this situation and can really backfire, especially when we still are looking at a lot of research around matters like that being done on men, first of all, let alone on perimenopause age women, let alone those with that whole other wonderful layer of autoimmune on top. So there's a lot of personal tweaking and awareness and choices that have to be integrated and defined into what does achieving blood sugar balance mean to you.
I feel like we could get into a whole episode just on
100%.
blood sugar, and maybe we should.
And maybe we should.
Because I'm sitting here listening, and I'm like, I mean, aside from like getting a blood glucose monitor, and carefully curating what you eat, it's not as easy as one might think to get a handle on that, right?
Right.
So I feel like there's a whole lot more. Don't let me sidetrack you though. That was the first. I was just thinking. Yeah.
And so that's one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2 or 3 quick things that we can do. The second is sleep. Sleep is glorious. I don't know why we fought off sleep so badly when we were little. Now it's like, can I please go to bed? And I look and it's like 7 p.m.
My favorite thing.
It's like, yes, wisdom. So optimizing our sleep, which may actually be a whole conversation of its own as well. It is so crucial. Also, more recent research is showing, dreaming is glorious in itself, but there's so much happening in the brain, but, more research showing like it's cleaning itself out. Mm-hmm. And so it's been tied to, poor sleep has been tied to Alzheimer's and other conditions related with brain aging, prematurely aging. More and more we seem to be seeing, especially with perimenopause, that is not harnessed and treated appropriately. So sleep in itself is, and again, it's such a deep and important subject. If I were to give some general guidelines, it's to find a sleep cadence you can stick to and do it every day. Find your evening routine to wind down your body and your brain. Our bodies like routine, just like kids, just like dogs. Like, we are quite simple at the end of the day. And to simplify things, to really look for those pillars, sleep is one of those things.
I love that you mentioned that, because we have what are called the big 6, and sleep is one of them. Diet is one of them. Exercise, yes. Having a good growth mindset and a good sense of humor helps.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of reason why those are our tenets here at Autoimmune Adventures. But I love that, because as you were talking about blood sugar, I was thinking, well, obviously we're using food to determine how we feel. Our lifestyle determines how we feel. Mindset is medicine, and so is lifestyle, and so is food. So if we take those and think of them more like, these are the things that are going to help heal my body. How do we take someone who's feeling overwhelmed? They don't know where to begin. What are 3 foundational shifts that create the biggest impact? So I think you've already mentioned blood sugar and sleep. What would be your third?
There's a lot to choose from.
I know.
I love your tenets. I love them all. And they're all really important. Since our common area here we're talking about is autoimmune, one person's medicine can be another person's poison, at least currently, depending which part of the spectrum you're on in terms of your healing journey. But I would highly recommend you really get to know your body well and do a protocol like the autoimmune protocol. Tests can only go so far. I have found personally and professionally, like, you can take food allergy tests, you can do all that, but until you're removing the food for a while and then reintroducing it in a very particular manner and a very structured protocol, you may not ever get to truly what your food friends are and what your current, at least, food foes are, which, by the way, can heal over time. Doesn't mean just because you can't eat something now and feel good doesn't mean that's forever. I have many and plenty of stories about that. Here's just one example. I had a client with autoimmune type 1 diabetes. So we went through my version of the AIP, which was a challenge, elimination challenge diet I had built 20 years ago. And one of the findings, it was so anti-textbook, but it was exactly what we tested it twice to make sure. When this person ate soy, their blood sugar tanked. Like, it's a protein.
Yep.
And you usually eat it with other things, like, let's say there's fiber in the meal and whatnot. Like, that is not supposed to happen. But a blood test or other type of allergy test was not going to ever reveal that.
Right.
And so that is of critical importance with someone who's managing insulin intake with type 1 diabetes, as a life or death matter, literally. And so that's the type of insight you can get to in a relatively short amount of time. Those are three things. It's like choosing between your, kids, like, who's your favorite. It's not really possible, but it's doable because they're tangible things you can think about and maybe do even starting today or tomorrow.
Right. Things that are within your control, like you said, things that you have within your control. You might not be able to control your environment all the time, or the toxins you're exposed to all the time, or there's so many things that are out of our control, but we control what we put inside of our bodies, and we control what we allow our mind to focus on. I would like to think I can control my sleep, but my body's not really doing so well with that these days. But yeah, it is important. We have I think we have a couple different episodes on sleep hygiene and sleep wellness, because it's so vitally important. And that is a notorious issue during the menopausal years, insomnia and trouble getting quality sleep. So I feel like that's really relevant as well. Let's talk about brain fog and mood swings, because those two symptoms alone can really just shake a woman's confidence. I know it is that way for me. Oftentimes I'll just be like, what is this word I'm thinking? I just can't. And I'm trying to have a conversation and sound like a rational human, like an adult. And I'm like, I know I'm not stupid, but I cannot put my words together. It drives me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening there? And what can women do to feel a little bit more stable and clear? I know creatine has made a difference in my life, but jump in that and see what do you have to say about that? Because that's a big one.
Brain fog, yes, it is. So we've already touched on a number of factors that contribute to it, that can make it worse and better. The importance of rest and sleep, the importance of changing hormones. If you think about it, your body's trying to figure everything out right now. It's like, it's like, gosh, if I try to find a good analogy, it's like you've dismantled this huge puzzle and you're trying to put it back together again in a completely different way. And so having a bit of grace, I think, goes a long way with ourselves and each other. I know for me, that's actually related to brain. I don't get hot flashes. Like, I may have had 10 in the past 10 years, and I actually like them because I'm always running cold. But like, for me, it was panic attacks and anxiety and for the life of me, word recall, especially names. And that one word I know, like, I speak English, I know this word and it's not coming. And the fogginess I experienced early on when all the shit skis hit the fan. It comes down to the combination of how well are you nourishing your cells? How well is your mitochondria, your energy system working? How well is your gut working? Is the lining of the gut, is your gut integrity intact, or does it need help and work to heal? And are your hormones being supported, whether you're choosing to look into menopausal hormone therapy, previously referred to as HRT or hormone replacement therapy? What does that look like? Have you found your the best combination that works for you, given your potential risk profile or not? And I think I mentioned sleep. Did I mention sleep already? And the blood sugar balance. Like if your blood sugar is either tanking or too high, forget about it. Your brain is all over the place. Blood sugar, we need it first for our brain. If our brain doesn't get enough sugar of the right amount and timing, it's going to make you crave sugar. It's going to crash you. It's going to do things to you. This is not about self-control. This is not about word recall. What's the word I'm looking at? Like
Willpower?
Thank you. That one. No, your body will make you do certain things because it's about survival at that point. And so when your body's trying to survive and find balance, there's not much left over for anything else. And so laying the foundations, giving it what it needs steadily, consistently, lovingly, will help quiet that noise so that you have enough left over for the business of life.
I love how you put that. It will quiet the noise so you have enough left over. Oh, I got some work to do.
Don't we all? And that's not even touching on the incredibly important neurotransmitters in our brain, but also in our gut. And we have receptors for those we're finding in pretty much every organ that's looked at. Dopamine, serotonin, these are directly affected, their volumes and availability and receptibility. I think that's a word. I think I used it right. Is all affected by our hormones.
Yeah.
And as estrogen declines, as progesterone declines, those are really struggling. And it's like, okay, how do we get back to homeostasis? How do we feed and get the amino acids we need? How do we get the right type of carbohydrates and fuel we need? How do we get the good and healthy fats to support our hormones, our body's ability to repair itself, remove the barriers that are inflaming it and harming it, so that we quiet that noise and so that we have those nutrients to let it do what it does best, which is reach balance, reach homeostasis, and repair and heal itself.
There's something beautiful that happens when we are able to understand the importance of homeostasis and then find a way to achieve it by actually paying attention to what our body is asking and then getting help where we need to get help so that we can achieve that. Because I think that often people think of perimenopause as a complete nightmare. And one of the things that I love is that isn't how it has to be.
No.
It can be powerful.
Yes.
We can be powerful. It's not just a crisis. And if we do that reframing, as you have often been known to say, that is something that's really beautiful. So what mindset shift do women need to move from feeling broken to feeling powerful?
This always gives me goosebumps. Because here we are feeling utter chaos and like we're losing our minds and we're losing ourselves. Everything is holding on by a string, it can feel like. And so I was just journaling about this morning. So for me, and this is where I'm just so passionate that it's been why I came back to this work is not just perimenopause, but with autoimmune. The shift, I believe, is to see this as an invitation to tap into and activate your body's innate potential to heal. Yes, fundamental. Life wants to live. Like, how do we lean into that? And how do we not fight it? How do we find the flow to help make that more possible? But it's even more than that. It is, how do we create a more connective, intuitive, trusting, loving relationship with our bodies and yourself? It's asking the hard questions. Like, this is like, come on now. Like, we're shedding those brain cells that give a shit. We're wiser than we've ever been. We are queens, earning the right to become crones and reclaiming our right to be the powerful, fuller beings we are as women. We create life, literally. Like, how about we finally fully walk and step into that and ask the hard questions of, what are you putting up with? What old habits and beliefs no longer serve you that did, and possibly greatly, they could have helped you survive and succeed and be the high achiever you are and have been, and achieve and accomplish all that you have in your big, beautiful life. But some of those things are now not right anymore. In fact, they might be undermining you. What are you afraid of? What are you maybe hiding from? And this is that opening to, and that crack where the light is finally shining through, and it's saying, come hither, come heed me, listen to me. And we have one beautiful body, and she is trying to communicate first with whispers, and then when we don't know how, or we don't make time, or we are too too wrapped up in the busyness of life to not want to listen, or she needs to start screaming. And in my case, she pulled the rug out from under my feet. Literally, I couldn't walk. That's what it took for me to say, oh, that was my autoimmune, the best, worst thing that ever happened to me. And I'm thankful it happened earlier in life, because it changed literally the trajectory of my life. And I'm thankful for everything that it made possible. Because the beautiful thing to think, like, who are you becoming through this? It starts with just starting to give yourself moments of stillness where you can hear her. She will tell you, she's already telling you exactly what's working for you and what not to do. And listening more and more, not the hustle, not the pushing, not the, it's not a fight. It's how do we harness this gift that we've been given to enter what might possibly the most amazing and powerful phase of our lives yet.
I agree. I think that we often sell short the power of the space between childbearing and settling in and rocking and enjoying our sunset off of our front porch. There is this block of time that exists that is what I like to call the time of the sovereign woman. I am fully filled with who I am and my power, and I understand it. And I want every woman to feel that and understand that what they have to offer is something that is solely theirs to give.
Yes.
How amazing is that? How amazing is it to know that in our power, we can not just change our own lives, but the lives of other people.
Yep.
Because when I look back on my life, I think about the people who made a difference in my life, and they are women who are now my age, right? They were my age when they were telling me, no, you don't have to do this. You can go out and achieve all that you want to. You have power. And I was like 20 and clueless. It doesn't have to be a bad experience. So thank you for sharing that. That's really beautiful.
It's so beautiful. I got chills listening, and I definitely saw little moments that I've been experiencing that really align with exactly what you were saying. But I do think it's especially hard as women to allow yourself the time to listen so closely to your body. As you said, she will whisper before she screams,
Yep.
but we'd rather answer when she's whispering. We'd rather have a gentle transition, have gentle changes than these tumultuous ones. And I'm guilty of not listening. I've probably been in perimenopause for, I don't know, probably pre-COVID. And when anxiety just came on out of nowhere, I've never had anxiety in my life, and it just descended on me. And I never once thought it could have anything to do with perimenopause. I just thought it was something going on with my gut health, maybe my autoimmune issues. And so if for women that are listening, I hope that no matter your age, you're paying very close attention to your body. If you are approaching those perimenopausal years, you need to be aware of the changes that are going to start happening. You need to be aware that there is help. You need to be aware that there are people that know what you're going through. We would love to hear more from you, Simla. I think you have just a wealth of information. But before we wrap up, we wanted to see what are the best ways that our audience can contact you?
So the best single way would be my website, and that is HealthCraft with Simla. And from there, you can choose to sign up for my email list. I attempt to share insights and a lot more of these types of guides, recommendations, stories through that list. You can also choose to sign up for a call with me to see if we might be a good match for working together. I've also begun writing on Substack. And so same, HealthCraft with Simla. You can find me on Substack or just DM me. And I love getting to know women individually, genuinely, because we got to stick together. We're more powerful together. And so any which way feels comfortable for anyone listening to reach out. I'm happy to say hello.
Thank you so much. We loved hearing from you. I am sure we're going to have you back because I myself have so many other questions for you, but we've got to wrap it up. But we wanted to thank Simla for coming on with us today and sharing her knowledge, sharing her wisdom, and your beautiful spirit. Like, you just have the most beautiful spirit, and I love that. As a reminder to our listeners, you're not broken, you're not alone. This chapter of your life can still be a very powerful chapter. We'll see you next time on Autoimmune Adventures. And remember, you are worthy of joy. Disease does not define your life. You do.